On my channel, I have a video titled How to Cut Large Circles on the Table Saw. And it is by far my most popular woodworking video. I believe it's because the guys that make CMT saw that it was their blade and featured it on their website. I think that's how it got started, but I'm not entirely sure. Anyways, usually, most of the time, people, they're quite positive. They're very happy. Hey, thanks for showing me a way to do something that I otherwise couldn't. My problem on this, and I'm just using a scrap, and it's just something I had handy, was that I wasn't cutting a nice, flat, square bevel. I was cutting a 35-degree bevel, which meant laying my table saw blade over on the side. When I get, we'll say, disparaging comments, they generally come in three varieties. I'll get the guys that I'll just describe as trollers. And when you check their channel, basically they're an expert in all things, and they pontificate often, loudly, frequently, insistently, across a wide spectrum of things, generally with the generic moniker of, I'm an expert at this and you're not. Here's why you're stupid. Okay, I think you could probably just simply disregard those folks because they're going to basically say that regardless. As far as the people who seem to genuinely fear this, they tend to come in really one or two additional varieties. Most common is the idea that that blade is going to grab your wood, spin the entire tabletop, up to speed, ripping off all of your fingers and raping your dog. And I'm here to tell you, that's just not the case. What I have done is, and I actually had some guy say, cut an octagon first. Did you not watch the video? I mean, I don't want to be rude, but I did. Then I cut the corners off the octagon. Then I cut the corners off of that. So, what we're doing, essentially, is making a series of straight cuts. What about that do you find inherently dangerous? Oh, but what if it turns? What does happen if it turns? Well, let's start out by pointing out that my piece weighed almost 30 pounds by itself. It was 28 inches in diameter, 2-inch thick, rock maple. It's not exactly a spring chicken. But what if it did turn? Well, I can tell you from experience, from cutting the one where I have embedded glass. See, when I hit the embedded glass, full 2 inches, I'll put the links to the videos I'm discussing in the header. When I hit the embedded glass, instantly, I dulled my blade. Badly dulled my blade. And that one did try to grab. And by grab, I mean the wood moved slightly and the blade stopped. What is it that you're expecting to happen here? If that blade were to jam, do you think the entire table saw would start rotating around in a circle? Do you think that the blade itself would explode into 1,000 shards of deadly glass? Give me a break, guys. It stopped the blade. It jammed the blade. Now, maybe some of you guys are pushing direct drive 12-inch table saws. I have no idea what had happened then. My guess is it would lift the board a little and jam your motor. And then there'd be some smokes and bad things to happen. I'm not saying you won't lose a blade if that were to happen. I'm simply saying that it's not going to take this 30-pound hunk of wood and fling it at your head and then rip all your fingers off. And you guys really just need to relax about it, buds. Honest to God. The push is no more than a simple straight cut. And then once we get to rotating it, the push is actually less because I'm only cutting with a portion of the saw curve. 2 additional methods were suggested to do this. Now the first, I aim to try. I'm going to do it. What they said is to raise your board up into it. Cut from the bottom. So you go around, raise your blade up, go around, raise your blade up, go around. Now, I think that's neat, and I am going to try it. As he points out, you end up with quite a bit more sawdust because, in theory, you're pushing almost a inch wide saw curve is what you're cutting. So you're actually cutting much more wood. His argument was it gave you a smoother look. Oh, I'll give it a shot. The other gentleman who suggested the same thing said that you had to do that because otherwise it would grab the piece of wood, spin it around, rip your fingers off, and rip your dog. All I'm asking before you post comments like that, think about what you're saying. You're now saying that 1/16 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch of saw curve is enough to rip this thing loose and throw it around the room. But when I am cutting an inch wide saw curve with teeth embedded in the surface, the entire rotation, not just coming in, the entire rotation of that blade, you are cutting all the way around in a cove cut, a circular cove cut. You're telling me that that pushes less? No, that's not so. Now the last method involves a router, a jig, and straight cut bits. And I mean, I'm just going to take the idiots that say use a jigsaw and just discard them. Because you know what? This is a finished edge. I need about as close to polished as I can get. But I know a router produces an excellent edge. So why didn't I use that? Well, maybe you've got bigger routers. I'll admit, I only have 1/4 inch shank stuff. So it means I'm really limited in how big I can push. But even if I had a 1/2 inch shank, could I conceivably do this? It would take, well, this is a little thinner, right? That is only like 1.5 inches. But now in this instance, I was cutting a bevel. And as you can see, cutting a bevel necessitates longer bits. People keep saying that I just get a jig for my router. I've only seen a handful of tilt-based routers. They were all rather expensive and relatively custom. It'd be very difficult to get a nice smooth edge using multiple passes. Maybe you've had better luck. For me, every time I start or stop a router in a cut, it shatters. And that might be because I have 1/4 inch stuff. Maybe 1/2 inch stuff doesn't. But I'm willing to bet it does. You're probably pushing a 3-inch bit in order to get through 2 inches of maple. So now I have got this big honking thing sticking out at the end of my router. And I am betting that that bearing right there is perfect and that my bit can't get any oscillation or wobbling started. I'm not sure why so many of you guys believe this is the most deadly thing you've ever seen. I'm sorry. I believe that doing it with an oscillating 3-inch long extension bit on a frickin' router is quite a bit more likely to fail on you. But the fact is, the average guy cannot, with an average router, make that beveled cut. Straight cut? Sure. But not that beveled cut. I maintain that it could be done on a big shaper. I mean, we're talking 4 or 5 horsepower because you're going to have some pretty massive cutting edges. You could do it on a shaper. Someone suggested that you could round it over on a large joiner. Make a stand, bolt it on there. You could rotate it. I'm totally with you, buddy. I am. You could do that. Does it make sense? No. I don't believe it does. Because when it gets right down to it, it's just a series of straight cuts. And then when you're done, you're chewing a little kerf. As far as the quote-unquote cabinet shop owning experts, I am not in any way mocking your power and expertise. I will point out this. I grew up around those men. Those are the men that taught me how to do this. One of my earliest memories is watching my grandfather cut a 4-inch circle by hand with a skill saw in a cloud of smoke, freehand. Sometimes you just got to do things. Sometimes you can't afford the big tools. When you try to tell someone that this is the single most dangerous thing in the world you've ever seen. When you take that kind of unthought out, exaggerated step, you shy others away from our hobby, our profession. If you're really that worried about it, number one, it means you've probably never tried it. And number two, why don't you say something like, if I were you, I'd add a clamp to that. Whoa! If you're worried, clamp it to the sled. What a hell of an idea. All of a sudden, this thing that will rip your arms off, take your head, rape your dog, we've already talked about that, is all tamed. The beast is tamed. You don't do us credit. You don't do credit to yourself when you go around the internet just trashing on people. I'm not sure why so many of you believe it's so dangerous. I suspect it has to do with a sense of power and entitlement that you get, sort of a, I know how to do this and you don't, therefore you never should ever again, and kind of a controlling instinct, and then the fact that everybody's anonymous on the internet, so nobody has to look face to face. I also think there's a tremendous amount of misunderstanding of the physics involved. You know what? You're a massive cabinet shop expert. I welcome your experience. I would love to see it. Film yourself doing it. Show me. Show me. Show me you taking your router at a 35-degree angle and hogging through 2 inches of maple, 28 inches in diameter, and leaving a clean cut without hurting yourself. I welcome it. I want to see it for the rest of us. Anything you do out here is dangerous. That machine right there cares nothing about you or your family. It doesn't care how tired you are. It doesn't care that you're looking away from it, you're studying it. That moment of inattention, this machine will get you. They all will. We take things for granted around the shop all the time. Even that wide belt sander there. Lean over that, maybe dangling a shirt sleeve button, the next thing you know, it's got you. Everything's dangerous. You got to use your head. You got to use your smarts. You got to think things through. And most of all, the best safety measure is not listening to people who just wander the internet trashing, nor is it wandering the internet trashing on people. The best safety measure is what's between your ears. I don't run a kickback. Most of the time I don't run an overhead guard. A lot of the time I find that the sliding guards on a joiner get in the way. Those are my choices. You couldn't do this with the anti-kickback pawl in place. It would jam. You couldn't do this probably with the splitter in place. I could see that getting in the way. And certainly you can't do it on this saw with the overhead guard in place. Use your brain. Try to promote, not destroy. And I would love to see your methods in action. I'd love it. I will link you from my video. Even if your method is basically just you going on a 15-minute tirade about how I'm stupid and you're awesome, I will link it. If you can show us a better way, remember the constraints we're looking for. I want a clean cut. I want a 35-degree bevel and 2 inches of maple. And if you can show me a better way, man, I'll copy you. Otherwise, you guys can look forward, because I'm doing the same thing again, but I'm cutting an oval. Oh yeah, I am cutting an oval. We are going to shoot for 28 inches wide. It'll probably be 26, but I'm trying. 28 inches wide, 46 inches long, beveled oval all the way around, and then bevels on the sides. That should be a hoot. And it should also have embedded glass in it again, so I'm going to smoke a blade. Again, You want to watch me smoke a blade? Actually, it doesn't show it in the video, but I burned up 3 doing that. If you want to watch me smoke that glass blade, I'll put the link up above. But the table is gorgeous. I wouldn't smoke the good CMT. I do love that blade. I wouldn't smoke that one. I got some Harbor Freight junkers, and I burned them one after another. But I'd do it again in a heartbeat because the results were awesome. So, in summary, that is not going to rip your face off unless you allow it to rip your face off, and it's no more dangerous than really doing anything else. Be quite honest. I look forward to seeing you cut 2 inches at an angle, or any of your other... Be honest, I really hope the guy who messaged me with the joiner idea, dude, show me that. Don't kill yourself, but I want to see it. Not because I'm mocking you or nothing. I just want to see you do it. Life's all about getting it done, boys. Play safe. Thanks for watching.